Hello friends, James Stevenson back with another episode of Who's Hatin' Hard on Tesla Today. It is once again Linette Lopez, Business Insider columnist. Let me roll the Who's Hatin' Hard on Tesla Today sizzle. Longtime Business Insider contributor. I think she was a columnist at one point and got demoted to contributor for putting out fake news so often. It's bad when Business Insider tells you your stuff isn't accurate enough for their standards. That's rumor and conjecture. I don't know why she was demoted to contributor, but and she may be a senior correspondent now or something. I think it's in the article. We'll get to in a minute. This is a long video. Buckle up. Put some tea on. We're going to be here for a while. Loki will do some of the hosting duties. He may leave most of them to me, though. You can keep an eye on what he's up to in the Loki cam while I turn my attention to this tweet from Moff at Moff34 on X, who replied, tagging me, saying James needs to do a video debunking this twit. What twit? Well, let's scroll up to see Business Insider at Business Insider on X, who posted Elon Musk started a price war that Tesla can't win. Who is the twit? Well, you already know that it is Linette Lopez. Now, at the top of the page here, who you see credited are Mike Wendell and Jenny Chang. You have to go to the bottom of the page to find Linette Lopez's name here as a senior correspondent at Insider. So we're going to be here for a while reading through this whole thing. But it is very common for Linette Lopez to publish lies, omissions, and half-truths in her articles. She's been doing it for a long time. I've been calling her out for a long time, and I'm not the only one. We can go through, after we get through this article, some of the examples over the years of Linette Lopez printing things that are just not true, and frequently siding with Jim Chanos against Tesla on contentious issues. So what's this article say? Elon Musk has started an electric vehicle price war that Tesla can't finish under increasing pressure from new competition. The competition is coming. Tesla spent the past year slashing the average price of its models by roughly 25%. The Model 3 fell from $48,000 to $44,380. The luxury Model S, meanwhile, plunged from a high of $130,000 to $96,380. The cars, as they say, have been priced to move. Well, yeah, they're down if you compare them against the highest the prices ever were. They're up if you compare them against the lowest the prices ever were. That's true for both of the models listed. Model 3 was $35,000. There were people who bought $35,000 Model 3s. Tesla Q hates when you bring that up, but you can still find the reviews on YouTube from people who bought $35,000 Model 3s back when that was the price. Model S had been very low for a brief period of time. In maybe 2015 or 2016, they had a very short-range version of Model S with a really low price. It's an unusual business strategy, to put it mildly. I can't think of another point in the history of automotive when a brand that wasn't going out of business cut prices 20% a year. Mark Shermer, the director of communications at the research firm Cox Automotive, told me. Maybe Mark isn't remembering back to a company that was expanding production by more than 50% per year for a 7 or 8 year period of time, right? The more of them you make, the more affordable you're going to be able to price them for buyers. Tesla is hoping that lower prices will drive up sales and slow the advance of the company's rivals, maybe even scare some of them out of the market altogether. Well, is Tesla hoping that, or has that already happened? Tesla's sales are up this year by a lot versus the prior year. If you compare every quarter against the prior year, you'll see they're all up by a lot. Are competitors being driven out of the market? Yeah, we've seen those announcements from competitors saying that they are reducing their production. They're lowering their EV production targets for the year and for next year. They're idling EV plants, right? So those things are happening. It's not that Tesla is hoping But that's not what's happening, Linette Lopez lied. Lower prices are not translating into higher sales, except that they are. The number of cars delivered to customers in the third quarter actually declined sequentially from an all-time high. Revenue is dropping, and the companies. So both of those quarters were up year over year, is my point. And the company's once fat profit margins are getting squeezed down to 17.9% in the third quarter compared to 25.1% a year ago. Well, okay, yeah, when the average selling prices come down, what you would expect to see is that the margins would come down with that, right? Less revenue per vehicle. That's going to fall straight to the bottom line as less profit per vehicle. Competitors aren't being driven out of business either. Once totally dominant in the EV space, Tesla's share of the U.S. market has fallen from 62% at the beginning of the year to only 50% today. So she's using the most recent quarter's number rather than the year-to-date number there. But I made a whole bunch of charts. You can go back and look at my videos to see. Tesla's doing just fine. The second place seller of EVs in the U.S. is selling about 1/10 as many as Tesla sells. Tesla's far and away the number one seller of EVs in the U.S. To make matters worse, the public's appetite for EVs isn't growing as fast as automakers expected. Well, the appetite for the EVs they're making, they mean. They may not say it that way, but that's what's going on. That means Tesla has set off a protracted battle for a piece of a pie that's growing crumb by crumb. It's growing more than crumb by crumb. The U.S. market is up more than 50% this year for EVs. That's pretty strong growth. The only reason Tesla is losing market share is because competitors are growing sales from less than 1,000 vehicles to maybe about 2,000 vehicles or similar. So they're doubling their sales, in some cases more than that. And that's how they're taking market share from Tesla. But none of them are increasing the number of EVs they're selling in the U.S. by anything approaching the amount that Tesla is increasing its EV unit sales year over year. If you do the price war, you have to make sure you have enough volume to increase and maintain profitability, John Zhang, a professor of marketing at the Wharton School, said. It has to be a continuous battle. This war you have to wage all the way, and you need to plan ahead. That's how you win. Well, Tesla has the production. Production's fine. Conversely, some experts will tell you that price wars are unwinnable, that they're a race to the bottom that serves only to kill profitability for the entire industry, and in an industry where the underlying technology and thus the costs of production are changing rapidly, no one can be sure where the bottom is. Winnable or not, Musk chose a terrible time to pick a fight. As legacy automakers walk the tightrope to our electric future, they can rely on sales of their traditional combustion engine vehicles to provide them with a safety net. Tesla has no safety net. If Tesla would only sell some gasoline cars, they would have a safety net. For Musk, it's go electric or bust. Before I forget to, I should say Elon has denied the charge that he is in a price war. He replied to somebody saying that it's not a price war. Tesla just has room to reduce prices from the all-time highs they were at to throttle the backlog down a couple of years ago to the current level where Tesla remains profitable. So other EV makers are losing money on every EV they sell at their current prices. So if they were to cut their prices, they would lose even more money. When Tesla reduces prices, they still make money on every car they sell. So what's this next chapter here? Tesla creates a cash problem again. A cash problem. Musk's decision to offer deep discounts on his vehicles was an act of pure desperation. That became apparent earlier this month when Tesla reported its third quarter numbers. The results were frightful across the board. Were they, Linette? So I should probably stop here and say Linette has proven many times over the years that she is financially illiterate. She can't read financial statements, and I have ample evidence to share with you afterwards of articles where she has posted factually incorrect statements about Tesla's numbers because she doesn't understand them, right? There is no requirement that you be able to read financial statements to be able to post articles online about them, and Linette has proven that over and over again. Tesla missed Wall Street's expectations on revenue, vehicle deliveries, and free cash flow, which was down to $848 million from $3.4 billion a year before. Most importantly, the company reported that its gross margins, a measure of the company's profitability after costs, continued to shrink. This horrified investors who had just gotten used to Tesla making money. Well, she's leaving readers with the impression that Tesla isn't making money, but Tesla is continuing to make money and at positive free cash flow. So automakers like Ford and GM frequently report negative free cash flow amounts. Tesla's free cash flow has been positive for many quarters in a row. It might be more than 10 quarters in a row of positive free cash flow for Tesla after funding their own capital investments internally out of operating cash flows, right? That's how free cash flow works. Other automakers have not been as good at consistently producing profits, positive profits, and positive free cash flow, which Tesla is still doing. Just gotten used to Tesla making money. That's deceptive. Intentionally, in my view. Over the past 2 years, despite Tesla's addition of more moderately priced vehicles, such as the Model 3 sedan and the Model Y compact SUV, its margins have grown to be some of the fattest in the car business. That has bolstered the argument that Tesla wasn't a traditional car company such as Ford or GM and deserved its much, much higher stock price. Naturally, this is a status Musk would like Tesla to keep, so he's promised to do everything he can to cut costs. Well, cutting costs is the game, and it has always been the game for Tesla. Delete, delete, delete. The best part is no part. The best process is no process. Running lean and efficient is the way to make your vehicles more affordable, so that as you produce more of them, you'll be able to expand the total addressable market of people who can afford to buy your car. That way, over the long term, as you scale up production, there will be enough people who can afford to buy your product. It's a good strategy, and it's one that Tesla has been executing successfully for a long time. It was in Master Plan Part 1, if you didn't read that one, from a long, long time ago. Use that money to make an even more affordable car. Ring any bells? So on the conference call on third quarter earnings, he said it's like Game of Thrones, but with pennies. Yes. Unfortunately, cost cuts can't be spoken into existence, not even by Musk. Even Elon Musk can't make something materialize from the ether. So funny. In the third quarter, Tesla's capital expenditures actually ballooned to their highest level in a year, $2.4 billion, up from $1.8 billion a year ago. Part of that was the Dojo supercomputer system that Tesla is investing in. But they're also expanding production globally, right? Upgrading lines, producing the newly revamped Model 3 in China. If prices are going down and costs are going up, even the most fervent of Musk's Wall Street believers will tell you that margins don't have a prayer. Well, I don't know what that means. Months into his pricing campaign, Musk has nothing to show for it and no plans to change. Nothing to show for it except, all-time record high revenues over the 12 trailing months. Musk gave no indication of when this cash drought would end. What cash drought? Tesla's cash balance keeps increasing. Every quarter, Tesla's cash balance is higher than it was the quarter before. Linette has imagined and then published that Tesla has a cash drought, or how margins would improve. Well, he did say by cutting costs, right? That's one way you can improve margins. The other is to grow revenues. He could not say when the company's Cybertruck would be available to the public, or even admitted that Tesla had dug its own grave trying to build the new vehicle. Yet another turn of phrase from Elon being misinterpreted by the usual suspects in the mainstream media. He also, well, I don't know, I hesitate to even call Business Insider Main Street Media. It's not even a real newspaper. If you want to get sidetracked for a while, you can research the guy who runs Business Insider and see what crimes he's been accused of over the years. He also could not provide details on when there would be a meaningful update to the aging models that currently make up Tesla's fleet. But there was one thing Musk was clear on: prices need to keep coming down, in a call that Wall Street widely acknowledged as one of Tesla's worst in some time. It was like a mantra Musk repeated over and over again, with a certainty born more of faith than facts. So I just can't emphasize again how important cost is, Musk said. It's not an optional thing for most people, it is a necessary thing. We have to make our cars more affordable so that people can buy them. Just reiterating Tesla's longtime stance. Like, Elon has said previously, years ago when the prices were a lot higher, that he was embarrassed about how high the prices had gone, but they were conducting strategic pricing, as you're compelled to when you have a fiduciary responsibility to your investors. You're supposed to be pricing your product at the price point the market will bear. Interest rates were low at the time. The backlog for Tesla's vehicles was long. And to keep it from growing to multiple years, Tesla kept raising prices so that backlog wouldn't keep growing. The only real hope Musk offered investors was a suggestion that driverless car technology would eventually someday offset Tesla's falling prices. But how exactly the math would work on that trade-off was unclear. Months into his pricing campaign, Musk has nothing to show for it and no plans to change. The market responded to Musk's disappearing profits by dragging Tesla stock down 15%. So, to read this paragraph, you might think Linette Lopez was wholly unfamiliar with Tesla's full self-driving and autonomous strategy. Like she didn't cover Autonomy Day. Maybe she's just forgotten what Elon said to people at the time, because she says how exactly the math would work on that trade-off was unclear. Well, go back and rewatch Autonomy Day if it's unclear to you, Linette. The whole EV market is in a cash bleed. Tesla's dismal results illuminated Musk's short-term reason for the desperate pricing strategy. But the underlying reason is even more alarming. Despite increasing demand and bountiful government investment, the world's transition from gas to electric cars is not going as smoothly as automakers, plural, expected. So Tesla's doing great. How's everybody else doing? Experts will tell you with certainty that EVs are the future and that internal combustion engines will eventually disappear from America's driveways and parking lots, but the march to electrified highways isn't proceeding in a straight line. No, it's proceeding along an S-curve, predictably. There are two main reasons that consumer appetite for EVs hasn't been as robust as automakers initially expected. One is the uneven way new technologies are adopted. It inevitably takes a while to sell people on even the most amazing innovation. So as more people buy Teslas, we've learned from Autoline and from S&P Global Research that when people who have already bought a Tesla go back to the market to buy another vehicle, and if they buy an EV, 95% of the time they buy a Tesla, right? So that's how the adoption curve is working. More and more people are buying Teslas, falling in love with them, and becoming brand loyal at unprecedented levels for the industry. The other is the slowing global economy. Customers around the world have become more price sensitive, which is bad news for EVs. So now she's agreeing with Elon's point that high interest rates make car payments higher for buyers, and that the price of the car needs to be lower so that monthly payment can be the same as it was in prior years when interest rates were lower. While the average selling price of an electric vehicle is going down from $65,000 last year to $53,000 in July, it's still higher than the average selling price for new vehicles overall, which hovers around $48,451. Teslas, at least the Model 3 and the Model Y, now start below this figure in the US. and after the EV tax credit, even less than that, net out-of-pocket cost to buyers in the U.S. Traditional car makers from Ford and GM to BMW and Mercedes have responded to the EV price challenge by doing what they do best, building the gas cars that customers still want. Well, it's a little telling that Linette says what they do best is make gas cars, but I'm inclined to agree on that point. Ford is able to balance production of gas, hybrid, and electric vehicles to match the speed of EV adoption in a way that others can't. John Lawler, Ford's CFO, said during the company's latest earnings call, "That's obviously good for customers who get the products they want, and good for us too, because disciplined capital allocation and not chasing scale at all costs maximizes profitability and cash flow." So that's a very diplomatic way of Ford's CFO explaining they lose money when they sell EVs, so they are going to sell as few as they can get away with and keep selling gas-guzzling pickup trucks and SUVs so that they can keep making money. But while the traditional automakers can coast on their older models, Tesla doesn't have that option. Cue the price cuts. Musk's starting a price war, Shermer of Cox Automotive said. "I do think there was nothing else he could do in that he doesn't have anything really new to compete against these other companies." He says it isn't because he has a demand problem, but I've been in this business a long time and I've never seen anyone cut prices without having a demand problem. Well, are you thinking about automakers that were already at steady state production? Or are you thinking about automakers that were expanding global production by more than 50% per year, right? Because if you were thinking about those, there isn't a precedent for a luxury automaker that only sells 4 models, selling as many as Tesla already sells. If they want to continue growing, they're going to need to drive those sales to incentivize buyers to make those purchases. And the strategy they have adopted so far is to lower prices to make the vehicle more affordable and to rely on word-of-mouth advertising. We will see if Elon follows through on his promise to advertise more, so that more people who don't know they can afford a Tesla but would like to buy one will learn that they can afford to buy a Tesla and buy one. Musk's goal to undercut the rest of the market on price is no secret, and it's made other car companies none too happy. You ain't kidding. Given the uncertainty around the future of EVs, almost every other automaker is reluctant to slash prices in their models because they already lose so much money on them. No, she didn't say that. She said because doing so would make continued investment in EV tech an even tougher business case to make. All right. You can sugarcoat it any way you want, Linette. They are losing money trying to make and sell EVs people want to buy. The market is telling them they prefer to buy a Tesla. In April, Ford CEO Jim Farley said Tesla's cuts could start an unsustainable price war, but the company still felt forced to cut the price of its Mustang Mach-E SUV at least twice this year, because if you're already losing $50,000 on it, why not go ahead and lose $60,000 on it? If Elon was smart, he would not drop the price. Instead, he should justify the cost of ownership, was a quote from Jim Farley that Linette provided. Many auto executives are refusing to engage in Musk's fight because they know from experience that the best way to win a price war is to not get into one in the first place. "We have no interest in sinking prices to gain market share," BMW CEO Oliver Zipse said in a recent call with investors. "That's not our strategy. No, BMW's strategy is to make as few EVs as they can get away with and to publicly question often whether the market wants to transition to EVs at all." That's Oliver Zipse's MO. Yeah, and of course they don't want to compete in a price war. Tesla can afford to cut prices and still make money, and they can't. So, yeah, they obviously don't want to participate. There are other more imaginative, more savvy ways to entice customers without a fire sale. During the 2008 recession, rather than slashing prices, Hyundai tried to figure out what was holding customers back from buying a new car. Turns out it was worries over getting laid off. So Hyundai offered customers a guarantee anyone who bought a car and then lost their job could sell it back to the company. That's the kind of creative workaround that gets a car company through hard times unscathed. All right, I don't know if that tactic exactly is going to move the needle by enough for Tesla. I'm not sure there's enough Tesla buyers out there worried about getting laid off that this tactic alone could drive the kinds of volume the price cuts have driven. It's an exercise in market research and advertising. Tesla has given little indication that it does the former and has flatly rejected doing the latter. Well, that's false. I put out a post a few weeks ago recommending that Tesla do more advertising because there are so many people in the overlapping Venn diagram that I posted who don't know that they can afford a Tesla they would like to be driving, and that Tesla should do something to help those people know that so that they don't spend more money buying an inferior car, right? That's my position. Elon Musk replied to me and he said, we are going to be doing more advertising, in so many words. Musk has always maintained that his outsized public profile makes advertising for Tesla a waste, Linette said, wrongly. Does she not follow Elon? Does she not have his notifications turned on? Is she not paying attention when he makes public statements? She should if she wants to cover Tesla. Rationally, he doesn't have to drop prices so fast. He can only delay the competition. Navdeep Sodhi, a managing director at the pricing consultancy Sodhi Pricing, said, "If Elon was smart, and we know he's not," Linette Lopez implies, "he would not drop the price. Instead, he should justify the cost of ownership." Linette Lopez is way smarter than Elon Musk. Just ask her. She'll tell you. In many of her articles, she has handed out just heaps of advice to Elon Musk on how he should be running Tesla better, because she'd be doing a far better job if she had founded Tesla instead of Elon Musk of making the company successful, in her mind. Part of the point of advertising and the reason investors are pushing Tesla to start spending money on it is to educate customers about why Tesla's vehicles are worth their higher price tags. According to Sodhi, Tesla has a compelling argument to make about how much money EVs can save customers over time. Why slash prices if you can persuade customers to pay more? Building a market for a product such as an electric vehicle is a marathon, not a sprint. Traditional car makers expect to lose money on their EVs for the foreseeable future. It's all about expectations then. If you expect to lose money on them, it's fine. Tesla just became profitable in 2021. Well, they had some profitable quarters in 2020 as well. Maybe 2021 was the first full year of profits. I'd have to go back and check the tape for 2020. They did sell right at 500,000 vehicles that year. If it slides back into the red because of its price cuts, expect investors to run in another direction. Okay, so Tesla's going to be doing more advertising in the future if you believe Elon Musk. If you believe Linette Lopez, they won't, because Elon has a steadfast opposition to advertising. We're getting close to the end now, folks. I know you don't want to hear a lot more from Linette Lopez, but we'll go through it as quick as we can. A losing battle, she has headlined the next section. If the short-term point of Tesla's price cuts is to maintain its market share and sell more cars, it's not working, she said wrongly. At the same time, the move could damage Tesla in the long term. She pontificated, probably wrongly. We'll find out as time goes by whether she's right about that or not. At the same time, the move could damage Tesla in the long term. I just said that. When companies play with price, Zhang said, they're playing with customer expectations. Once customers get used to paying $40,000 for a standard EV, they're not going to go back to $60,000. In a price war, you may prompt a few more people to buy from you today, but you'll be sacrificing millions of dollars in future sales. Well, whether Zhang is right about that or not depends on whether you buy Elon's argument about interest rates making a difference in terms of the monthly payment. If buyers care most about what their monthly payment is and not what the sticker price is of the car, then the argument works both ways. If reducing prices now makes sense with higher interest rates, then raising prices later to maintain the same monthly payment when interest rates fall also makes sense. And so customers used to paying $40,000 for a standard EV would pay more for it if their monthly payment was the same because interest rates came down. Making cars is an expensive business, and if the price cuts don't generate more demand, Tesla's fortune could change rather quickly. Then there are all the customers who paid that $60,000 in the past, learning that they could have saved thousands of dollars if they had waited a few months. To make their purchase has a negative impact on brand loyalty. In China, Tesla's price cuts even sparked protests among owners who paid more for their vehicles. That's old news, but you can count on Linette to bring it up. But Musk isn't thinking about the future. He needs the money he hopes to make from price cuts, and he needs it now. Making cars is an expensive business, and if the price cuts don't generate more demand, Tesla's fortune could change rather quickly. If you have a factory that makes something and you're not selling it, you're losing huge money in automotive, Shermer said, in an off-topic tangential diversion from the matter at hand, which is Tesla sales. Tesla has factories that make something and sell it. Tesla is selling all the cars they make. And that's been true for a very long time. This is a moment when you want an experienced team of automotive executives at the helm of your company. Instead, Tesla's onboarding a new chief financial officer. Zach Kirkhorn, a Tesla veteran of 13 years. Whoa, now he's a Tesla veteran of 13 years. When he was named CFO, I'm sure we can find a Linette Lopez article questioning his youth and inexperience. Who presided over the most profitable quarters in the company's history, stepped down as chief financial officer in August. According to company documents, his severance package included the kind of payoff and strict non-disparagement requirements that reek of a C-suite firing. Linette didn't feel it necessary to remark that new Tesla CFO Vaibhav Taneja has been with Tesla for a long time as the chief accounting officer and in other finance roles before that. So he's also a Tesla veteran of perhaps more years than Zach was. I'd have to go back and check to see, but maybe that was inconvenient for her to include in her argument disparaging the transition to a new CFO. In the end, price cuts won't be enough to drive sales, Linette opined. If Tesla is going to keep its business healthy, it needs to appeal to new customers beyond Musk fans and early adopters. It needs to conduct research and launch advertising that makes the right argument to the right customers that one of Tesla's 4 models is the right car for them. Discounting the sticker price may drive a few sales, but in the long run, you can't build a global automotive juggernaut without cash flow, and Tesla doesn't have cash flow. She's already said wrongly, except that Tesla does have positive cash flow remaining after funding its own its own capital investments internally, and that's been true for a very long time. You wouldn't know it from reading this article. Musk himself has admitted that Tesla narrowly evaded death by cash burn in both 2008 and 2018. So if this sounds like a Tesla Q member talking, I mean, Linette Lopez is an honorary Tesla Q member and a friend of Jim Chanos, which we'll see soon. Waging price war during a downturn is a challenge unlike any Tesla has faced before. The company has survived for years on a first-mover advantage, on being small and nimble, and on the willingness of investors to bail it out. But today's Tesla is increasingly a normal car company. It's just a car company. More Tesla Q arguments here. With normal car company problems, Musk's unfulfilled promises of robotaxis and unmatched artificial intelligence may dazzle the market for a while, but they're not driving the sales Tesla needs. To win the price war it started, the company has a growing fleet of competition and an expensive manufacturing process, and shareholders who have grown used to fat profits. If cutting prices is all Tesla can do to survive this new reality, it will continue to bleed money every time the rubber hits the road. It will continue bleeding money. Doesn't bleeding money mean losing money? Tesla still makes money. Tesla is making positive earnings and has been for many, many consecutive quarters. And at some point, turning it around may no longer be an option. Well, if you're making positive profits and positive cash flow, turning it around isn't what you want. You don't want to turn around from positive numbers. But there you go. That's what you get from Linette Lopez, senior correspondent at Insider. I do have some stuff pulled up back here, though. So back in 2018, I made awful-looking charts that I'm not going to show you now, especially because I can't show you who I was replying to anymore. I guess this account deleted their tweets. But they were quoting Linette Lopez, so I reminded them not to throw the word respected around. You can't call Linette Lopez a respected journalist, unless you mean respected by Tesla Q. I can't think who else respects Linette Lopez. Here's one example of the kind of important context that is typically missing from Tesla articles Linette writes. I said on August 25th, 2018, we can only speculate as to why that keeps happening, but she has been linked to Jim Chanos. Just search her name on Twitter to see more. If you didn't catch my Jim Chanos video, I made one earlier this weekend about him shutting down Kennecos Associates after incinerating more than 95% of its assets under management over the last 15 years, much of it resulting from his long Tesla short. He's been short Tesla since 2016, I guess, and affirmed recently that he was still short this year, even as Tesla is up huge year to date. What do I have for you next? I need to click in this window, I guess, to have my control page up take me to the next tab. I thought that was going to work. Control page down. There it is. Okay, so Clean Technica wrote this article about Tesla FUD champion Linette Lopez doing it again. So she was already a repeat offender back in 2018. And you can pause this article and read the whole thing if you want, as I scroll through it slowly. But Linette Lopez was making wild accusations that there was a grueling secret behind Tesla being able to produce 5,000 Model 3s per week. Let me go back to the share desktop screen here and scroll back up to the top of this article because I didn't realize I was on the wrong screen in OBS Studio. So you can pause this and read it if you want. Internal documents reveal the grueling way Tesla hits its 5,000 Model 3 target. So the author reminds people here that the grueling secret Linette Lopez reportedly discovered was that more than 4,300 of the 5,000 cars made in the last week of June 2018 needed some rework, costing an average of 37 minutes per car, which isn't great, but isn't terrible, right? Well, the author is calling it terrible here. Okay, fine, it's terrible. It's not the worst thing that could happen for there to be another 37 minutes on the time of production. If your total time of production is less than 24 hours, a lot of automakers have like 3 or 4 days worth of assembly time for a car. So Tesla is taking a software Scrum approach to hardware manufacturing, which is a logical approach for a Silicon Valley company. Is Tesla just any other automaker doing it the traditional way? No, they're not. They're doing a Scrum sprint to get the production numbers high, which is what Linette Lopez failed to grasp. For that article, let me see if I can figure out how to hit my keyboard shortcuts correctly this time. Okay, and I'm still sharing my screen. Here's one from Energy Vest. Linette Lopez spreading FUD about Tesla again. Apparently, at Russ1 Mitchell believes this passes for intelligence and clarity. LA Times auto columnist Russ Mitchell, also a confirmed Tesla Q member. He was once using the block list. I'm not sure if he still does. Some comments on this article below. Quoting here, Tesla's balance sheet leaves many reasons to be skeptical. With its 7.9 billion in assets still swallowed by 9.7 billion in liabilities. If you notice, there was no update on these metrics in Linette's most recent article. Why? Because Tesla's debt is down to less than 4 billion and their cash is up around 26 billion. With the retained earnings growing larger every year as Tesla adds to its cumulative net income, now a positive number. Perhaps Ms. Lopez isn't familiar with the fact that balance sheets are balanced by assets equals liabilities plus equity. This is literally freshman level undergraduate accounting information here. Big deal. Tesla borrowed to invest in manufacturing capabilities. Tesla has a lot of money, $3 billion in cash at the time, now more than $23 billion, right? And positive cash flow. Tesla has enough money to fund its capex. Here's a smear from Linette, like some of the ones we just saw. She was publishing back in 2018 or 2019, whenever this article came out. What's more, on Wall Street, accounting is as much an art as it is a science. A really talented numbersmith can make a smash hit out of a quarter that might otherwise have sounded like a flop. Wow. Tesla sells GHG credits awarded on a per-vehicle basis every quarter, and they track volume. Maybe UBS was surprised, but serious analysts were not surprised by how much Tesla makes selling their cars twice. You know, Tesla takes advantage of an opportunity that other automakers would love to be able to avail themselves of if they made compelling EVs the way Tesla does, which is selling the car twice, once to the buyer and once to another automaker that failed to produce and sell enough EVs to comply with applicable law. That's what ZEV credits are. Research and development, Linette said in her article, fell from 11% of sales to 5%, despite the fact that Musk has said a Tesla Roadster, a Semi, a Model Y, and a pickup truck are in the works. Energy Vest reminding Linette here, please Google operating leverage. Yeah, stuff gets smaller as a percentage of revenue as revenue gets larger. That's what you want. That's how you draw it up. You want your business's operating leverage to improve over time as you sell more products. What else do we have here? Tesla has $3 billion in cash, but it also has $3.5 billion in accounts payable. Don't forget $1.2 billion in accounts receivable and $1 billion in unused credit capacity. In other words, to invest heavily in its expansion, Tesla still needs to generate even more cash than it has. No, it doesn't. Again, Tesla has enough cash, available credit line, and anticipated operating cash flow to fund its CapEx plans. I replied to this article, and you can also see it, if I hit my buttons correctly this time. I replied to Anonix10, the former handle of Energy Vest, saying, great thread, tacking on a few of my thoughts. To read this article or the Twitter posts of unhinged shorts, you would think it was some sort of crime to sell ZEV or GHG credits. It is not Tesla's fault that competitors who had the same business opportunity to sell EVs and eligible credits chose not to. The question of the single entity representing more than 10% of Tesla's accounts receivable was answered by Deepak, Tesla's CFO at the time, on the call, and again by the Tesla spokesperson cited in the article. This is only a question to Wall Street analysts so dense that they didn't understand either explanation, which you can pause and read if you want. If you're still confused, let me help. Many of the buyers who took delivery of their Tesla on a Saturday or Sunday, September 29th or 30th, financed through one of Tesla's partner banks. Those sales were recorded as revenue at time of delivery, meaning before the month ended. But the bank didn't actually transfer the cash to Tesla for a few days. A balance sheet is a snapshot in time recorded at the end of the fiscal period, so at midnight on September 30th, or whatever hour Tesla's fiscal month ends, they hadn't received this cash yet, and that's why it was an account receivable larger than 10% from one bank. Yeah, this 10% AR is a huge nothing burger because that bank's payments came through routinely a couple of days after the quarter ended. So long before Tesla released its financial statements, that cash had already come in. But they're not allowed to change the balance sheet because that activity occurred after the close of business on the last fiscal day of the quarter. This head scratcher isn't troubling at all to anyone who thinks through changing ASP mix. From Q2 to Q3, Tesla greatly increased its mix of highly optioned performance all-wheel drive Model 3s. The value of finished goods inventory per vehicle is greater when sales mix becomes higher ASP. So it's a head-scratcher for Linette Lopez, but not a head-scratcher for folks who have thought through the mix implications. And I have two answers for Linette's final question in the article. Why not borrow more cash, Tesla? Tesla announced they will borrow to build gigafactories, but from local banks, which makes sense so that you don't get hit with foreign exchange impacts. If you're building a factory in China, you want to borrow the money for that factory in Chinese yuan so that you can make your payments also in Chinese yuan. You repay the loan in the same currency that you borrowed the money in. That way you know you've borrowed the right amount to cover your obligations, and there won't be a foreign currency exchange impact because you'll give all the money back in the same currency you borrowed it in. And because screw you, Wall Street, that's why. My fun little joke to end my thread, my short little thread that I posted. What do we have here? It's a Linette Lopez tweet that for some reason I can see. She blocks me. This one did pop up for some reason. How does that work exactly? Does anyone know if this is a real thing? If this is really a thing, was Linette Lopez's question. And you can't see what the headline is anymore from TechCrunch, but it's answered for you in the replies. By Stephen Spencer at @Spencer_SMB, who replied, "Are you serious?" And by Israel Melendez, who replied, "What are you asking exactly? Are you asking how OTA updates work? If OTA updates are really a thing? Something else?" Yeah, Tesla's been using OTA updates for a long time before May 16th of 2019. Eric J. Mandela at Eric Mandela replied, "Teslas all have an active battery cooling system which pumps fluid around the batteries to cool them. Likely this update runs the cooling system at a more aggressive level to only allow a cooler max temperature in any of the cells while charging." Patrick Breitenbach replied, "Linette, Teslas are the first and only cars that are fully programmable. This kind of stuff is done all the time with programmable devices. You are so anti-Tesla, you are completely missing the story." Critter replied, "Are you actually asking if Teslas can receive firmware updates over the air? Please tell me that is not the case." All right. Probably enough replies there. Here's one that I can also see somehow from Linette Lopez. Now Elon is blathering about AI because he can't answer an actual question about, get ready, buckle your seatbelt, perfecting the full self-driving his customers are already paying for. What? Another just perplexing question from Linette that I could only think to reply to. Now Sergey Brin is blathering about algorithms because he can't understand an actual question about perfecting the Google search engine his customers are already paying for. Well, if the question is about how Google search works, talking about the algorithm is how you answer the question. If you don't talk about the algorithm, you're dodging the question, right? Same is the case for Elon answering a question about full self-driving. It runs on software, Linette. I don't know what else to tell you. That's how you have to answer the question. All right. Here's one from Randy Vegetables. Jim Chanos doesn't like regulatory credits. He wants to change the definition of accounting profits, so Jim Chanos blocks me. Maybe I got them confused. Maybe Jim Chanos is who blocked me and not Linette. But Tesla figured out how to monetize production of all their vehicles twice rather than just once, was my reply. Jim, Chanos, and Linette Lopez think that's cheating, and especially when combined with price cuts, means Tesla is doomed. So they hated price cuts before. They also hate price increases, Tesla Q does. Both of those mean that Tesla is doomed, according to my Tesla logic flowchart, if you haven't seen it before. So lowering prices or selling credits, both of those mean Tesla is doomed, even though raising prices and not selling credits also mean Tesla is doomed. Let's see, what else do I have for you here? Page down. Here we say Taylor. I think this is Taylor Ogan who blocks me. Maybe that's how I got confused. I had so many of these lined up where I couldn't read the original tweet. Here we see Taylor employing the famous Linette Lopez abductive reasoning principle. If I haven't personally seen one, I can therefore conclude that none exist. I didn't find it in time for this video, but there is a post out there from Linette Lopez concluding that Tesla Powerwalls don't exist because, get ready, she had never seen one before. So if Linette hasn't seen Tesla Powerwalls, she said in the tweet, I can therefore conclude that they do not exist. Alright, and do I have more? I'm going in chronological order, so that might be the last one. No, I've got a whole Mars catalog post here, which I thought would be a great way to end this video. I'll just see if I can get this to play a little larger. Mars titled this on his blog, Claim Chowder, revisiting Linette Lopez's Gigafactory Shanghai predictions. Perhaps the thing Linette Lopez is most famous for is this video.
Tesla has planned on making a huge entrance into the Chinese market by building a factory there that makes Model 3s the standard version, which is to say the least complex version of the Model 3. Well, Tesla is known for setting goals that are completely beyond anything that the auto industry would possibly ever do. Unfortunately, Tesla is also known for not meeting those goals. Elon Musk said that there is going to be Model 3s manufactured from the China plant by the end of 2019. So far, the China plant is basically an open field with some digging going on. It's harder and harder to believe that there will be Model 3s coming out of the Tesla China Gigafactory by the end of the year. China is not only the manufacturing hub of the world right now, but also the Chinese government has been giving generous subsidies to people who make and purchase electric vehicles. In Beijing, it can cost like $10,000 to get a license. If you buy an electric vehicle, that has been waived for you. But the problem is that the government is going to start replacing those deals with a cap and trade program for manufacturers. So instead of the customers getting the deal for buying an electric vehicle, the manufacturers are going to get a deal for making electric vehicles. So we have yet to see how that's going to change consumer behavior. Tesla is going to have to figure out how to resource all of the parts for the cars that it already has sourced in the United States. So they're gonna have to change their supply chains, not just to keep them cheap or expediency, but because the Chinese government is not going to allow Tesla to use the same parts in the Chinese cars that it uses in the cars for the United States and Europe. There's a lot of competition at different price points. Because the government was giving so many subsidies, electric car companies popped up all around the country, and Chinese car manufacturers decided to make electric cars too. Tesla is a luxury car and out of reach for a lot of Chinese people. So Tesla is gonna really have to work on getting the cost down if it wants to sell more than just luxury models. Another thing about the Chinese market is that SUVs are really huge there. At this point, Tesla only has the Model X, which is about $170,000 in China. That car will be competing with cheaper electric vehicle SUVs, including one from Nio, which just came out recently, which is a little more high-end Chinese electric car maker. Because of the kind of erratic price cuts and stories about fiery accidents and Elon Musk's legal troubles and behavior, all of that is having an effect on Tesla's brand value. In fact, there's a recent report out from Axios that shows that Tesla's brand has declined significantly here in the United States. Over in China, recently there have been protests because people who recently bought Teslas found out that the price for the Model 3 was cut significantly. So people who just bought their Teslas for, say, $60,000, $65,000 are angry that supposedly now there's a much, much cheaper model that they could have ordered and basically had the same car. According to my sources, if Tesla wants to win at China, they need to get cars out fast. But the problem is there's going to be just intense competition and a lot of supply. If you can get a lot of cars on the road, according to my source, we're talking 150,000 to maybe 300,000 cars. If Tesla can do that, it can probably have a big impact and keep a foothold in China. Until then, you know, it may have to sell cars at a loss. For other car companies in China, that's going to be difficult because they have deals with manufacturers that require them to make a certain amount of cars. Tesla doesn't have that. It has an advantage. But what Tesla doesn't have right now is a factory. So that's a problem.
All right, there you go. Linette Lopez, in her own words, a couple of things caught my attention on that playthrough. I've seen the video many times. One of them was how she gave us the date for how old her FUD is that she's still trotting out about Tesla being sued by Chinese car owners for lowering prices. But at the same time, she was recommending in that video that Tesla should lower their prices. What's her article about now? How terrible it is that Tesla lowered prices, right? There's no way to win with Tesla Q. No matter what you do, it means Tesla is doomed. They're just going to write an article about it fully without acknowledging their prior stance was the opposite on the same issue. Linette Lopez's recommendation here was Tesla should lower prices to make them more affordable in China, where they might be able to make 150 to 300,000 vehicles. Tesla Giga Shanghai is going to make more than 1 million vehicles over the next year and sell more than 500,000 in China domestically. So that's who's Hatin Hard on Tesla today, and that is my video. And I believe that is the longest ever episode of Who's Hatin Hard on Tesla today. Let's check in with Loki and see if he knows. Loki, was that the longest ever episode of Who's Hatin Hard on Tesla today? I think it was. So with that, I will say thank you for sticking around and watching my marathon HHHTT today. If you liked this video, click the like button to maybe give other people the confidence to stick through this very long video that you enjoyed, obviously, if you're still watching at this point. And special thank you to everyone who supports me, whether you do that on Patreon or on Twitter, now X, or by joining my YouTube channel, as my executive producers Kathy Kitchler and Rebellionaire.com did. And I'll see you in the next one.